We're looking at today powering buildings with green hydrogen because solar is not my option. Today, with the space available in buildings, at best we're able to generate 5% of that building's annual energy consumption through solar. The rest of the 95% has to be off-site, either through wind or through solar or through other technologies. So we're looking at seeing if we can power it with green hydrogen using hydrogen fuel cells, because that's a better, and a more cleaner way to do that. But again, to produce hydrogen, if I have to take one step back, again I need the entire electrolysis to be done. Again, I need solar to be able to create green hydrogen, and again the emissions associated. So it's a continuous chain. So we sort of just, it's like, passing the parcel. So he's passing it to me and I'm passing it to him. So when the music stops, we don't know who's the one that's going to get screwed yet. But I think at every point, we need to make those improvements, and we need to keep asking that question: is there a cleaner and a more, zero carbon way to do that? We're not there yet, but I think that doing this will help us find the path. So hopefully by 2070, or there are a lot of countries that have, Germany, if you look at, and I cite that as an example, had a goal to be zero carbon by 2037. They've pushed, and they've reopened plants in the last 1 year, because obviously with the Russia and the gas crisis and all of that. So there are a lot of parameters at play. So again, if you're dependent on an external country for a certain resource, that's always going to be more a political solution rather than an environmental decision. And they've reopened coals, they've moved back 2037 to 2043 or 2045. They still don't know if they would be zero carbon by 2045. The effort is to go there, and it's fine. Even if you're not zero carbon by 2045, if you're getting there in the right direction, it's still the right step forward. So there are a lot of things at play, and when we sense that still you don't have control over, that could completely skew your equation.
Dr. Shankar, with a warning that I'm going to throw a curveball at you. Those are infinitely available is the basic premise. The issue, though, is that the resources that need to go into the manufacturing process are extremely finite. There is an estimate that if you look at the amount of solar panels that the world is going to need, 1/4 of all of the world's solar panels need a really tiny amount of silver, but you add them all up and it's 1/4 of the world's silver supplies are going to be needed for solar panels alone. The more commonly stated example is around the material, the critical minerals that go into batteries. And you've got China cornering a lot of the supply already. There's a third dimension, which is that climate technology is becoming increasingly nationalized and almost weaponized. And we run the risk of replacing fossil fuel dependency with critical mineral dependency and following that alternative technology dependency. So when you're a company like Mahindra and you're looking at the fact that I'm going to need X tons of this material, going forward, and I know that the prices are only going to get higher because there's a demand and supply constraint there. How do you look at it, and what investments do you make to try and get around that, to avoid the music stopping?
Sure. I think it's very important to have a very strong strategy around some of the critical materials that goes into the batteries and also the rare earths that goes into the motors for these electric vehicles. Lithium to start with, definitely. There are multiple ways in which one can proactively address the availability of lithium. To start with, as a typical researcher, this is something that I started about 5 years back, to use the power of system dynamics modeling to predict future demand versus supply scenarios for a variety of situations. And then over the last 5 years, I've been fine-tuning it and making it better and better. Where I see a lot of potential, the first is urban mining, where we need to make sure that it's a closed system, the lithium-ion batteries comes back to you and you are able to recover the critical materials in an effective way. And this is the very important, the first step. And the reason this is, there is going to be a sudden surge in the demand for lithium, for because the electricity that I want to use for charging my EVs should be clean electricity. So it's going to be renewables. So suddenly the EVs also need the lithium, and then the renewable energies, they will also need the lithium. So there will be a double the demand for the lithium-ion battery systems. So when that happens, urban mining alone may not solve the problem, because you need a good number of vehicles to be available for you to recycle and reuse. The second big area is what we look at as the deep sea mining. This has tremendous potential. Today we have the technologies in place to do deep sea mining, and many of these critical materials are available in plenty if you are looking at the sea. And a third, more out of the box idea, but where companies have invested and started looking at, is to look beyond the sea, look at the space, asteroid mining. There are certain places where you can get sufficient amount of lithium, cobalt, rare earths, nickel, manganese, everything that you want just from one piece of these materials, plenty available. So actually one needs to shift from this constraint oriented thinking to a abundance based thinking, where you start looking at where else can I go, how else can I get access to these materials. And today technology allows you to do that. I think it's very, very important for us to not get constrained or bogged down by the availability of these critical materials when we are just starting this journey. But what is important is to design these electric vehicles in the right way so that they are easy to recycle and reuse. That keep it highly modular and focus more on easy ways of integrating and dismantling, so that it becomes very easy for us to recycle and reuse the materials that goes into it. I think that's a path forward, and most OEMs are looking at partners with expertise in these areas who can help them to do this. I think that's happening.
Thank you so much.